Talking. We are back after a small hiatus. Aaron, how the heck are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, Brian. How are you doing this morning?
Doing well, sir. Good to be back in the swing of things with you. Apologies to those of you who watch. We life happens, work happens, and so we're trying to do our best to fit this in. And we're doing well, I think. Anyhow, looking forward to getting into today's topics. Let's start here though. Aaron, how's things? I did hear that Rooted Intellect, excuse me. We're not doing the fundraiser anymore. We're crowdfunding. We've all of a sudden moved ourselves to Amazon. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yes. We've had some big developments. So we end up finding out through this process, and everything happens for a reason, and that crowdfunding isn't necessarily the best avenue to bring our product to market. It works for some things better, but the question that my partner Alan Hoffman and I were getting over and over again was, where can we just buy one? Like, people, it's very simple. People just want their shit. I mean, they don't want to wait for it. They don't want to possibly pledge. You might not get it. They just want it. So thankfully, our Amazon store is about to be live, and it's amazing that it's going that route, because people just say they just want to buy one, so then they can buy it. We've got some other great things that are going to be on the platform, like King Solomon's Nutrients. Everyone knows Damian Solomon and hid the results of what he does. So we're going to have a bunch of things on the store that get growers off on the right foot. And again, as I say, everything happens for a reason. In conjunction with the store opening, Alan and I will be on Cannabis Talk 101 from iHeart. They have a viewership of 6 million people, so we'll get to bring the carousel in front of that audience. So I will be out there, and I'm flying out to LA on Monday, the 8th. We're filming on the 9th, and then I'm coming back on the 10th. So if anyone wants to connect, I'll be in the Huntington Beach area. But really, really excited. Lots of things going, and the photography thing is just doing amazing. So I got no complaints. But I was on LinkedIn this morning, and I want you to tell me a little bit more about what's going on with the Beard Brothers and their session.
Very good. Well, thank you for that tee up, sir. I'm excited about the LinkedIn Live series that Beard Bros is going to put out. It's a really great opportunity for us to continue to expand our reach. We have a larger team. As much as we would love Bill and Jeff to be able to be in 74 places at once, that's just simply not feasible. Not to mention, we have a very rounded out, well-rounded team that I think can, expand the idea of what Beard Bros Media, is into a lot of sort of cool B2B conversations. It's a great way for us to sort of expand everybody's idea of what the team is, to bring in more people to talk about great issues. And so it's going to be a really cool series. At first, they're going to come out in 2-week intervals. And we've got like Steve Goldner and Nigel and Chelsea Mulligan and Rachel Wright, all doing each individual show sort of in their lane, right, of expertise, talking about different things affecting the cannabis industry or just business in general sometimes, or maybe they're talking about, ways that we can, ways that operators or others, decision makers in the space can improve or help scale or just learn different things about where we're going. So it's really going to be a great opportunity to continue to put out really good, informative, fun, conversational information that I think people will be able to access. And it's just a further growth for, Beard Bros Inc. basically. And we're really excited about all those different things. So yeah, lots of work, but lots of excitement.
That is awesome.
Yep. So, that's basically what's going on, there. And then of course we just do a whole bunch of other things too. Like your photography is going crazy. That's good. And I'm really happy about that. And yeah, I work with some other, great folks too, to do a lot of things. And I'm sure you'll hear things about that as we move forward.
That sounds exciting.
Some Guys Talking is really, a show about, honestly, it's just Aaron and I deciding that we had great conversations. And as we became friends, they obviously become a little more personal in nature. And we realized that we would have these really nice, comfortable conversations that actually helped each other. And we were like, wait a sec, there isn't really anything like this out there, or a lot too much that we could find. And so we just thought, hey, let's take our basically one-on-ones that we were doing and make a kind of a show out of it or a live stream. And so here you are. And, really the design of the show is, sort of to be informative, helpful, hopefully for people to overcome certain maybe barriers that you have, or maybe to hear some people like us just chopping it up about certain topics that, might feel taboo or might feel inaccessible. We certainly, a couple of themes, if you've been watching us, are yes, you should say something, and yes, you should do something. And so if you're in those lanes and you're curious about things you might want to do, maybe you'll like some of the things that we talk about. So
yeah. And just to kind of expand on that, and kind of one of the things was that we realized through our conversations that you and I were similar in the vein that we're not afraid to be self-reflective, criticizing. I don't know if that's necessarily the word, but we had growth mindsets that, just, I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but we want to be better men. I mean, we just, that's what it is. Like, and we realize, certain things that are traditional that we don't necessarily agree with. And we wanted to be better, and we're not afraid to look at things in a more critical light, look at ourselves and be more self-reflective. So with that, there's no fear in discussing different topics that, we don't have that fear. So I think that's what makes it unique, that, we'll speak to things that people think about constantly, but will not talk to anybody else about, even those closest to them. So if we jump into it, maybe it'll make it easier for that to be accessible and, for them to be able to deal with and confront things that make them uncomfortable.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, if you see a couple of guys, chopping it up about, one of those topics, maybe that helps you go, I don't know, I mean, if they're willing to like live stream about this and, and be vulnerable, in that way to everybody, maybe I can at least go talk to somebody about what I'm thinking about. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or call a person, or, maybe if it's worse, get some help, just depends on what it is, of course. And that leads into our topic of today, of course, a very big one that will probably be a theme that comes up several times in our conversations in our show. Already has, but it's about the old big fear and anxiety. Ooh.
Fear and anxiety.
We all experience it. We all experience it, all very spooky and scary. And I just, there's so many different aspects of, I mean, the real thing is stress is just a very difficult thing. And while it's easy to sort of poke at or downplay because we all experience it, it's also like the number one killer of all of us.
Yeah.
And so ultimately we want to make, like, while I think being lighthearted about it and being, a little bit more straightforward about it is good, I think, for the soul, I think it's really important to remember that stress is really a real thing. That it is a very, very real, thing that very much plagues and hurts and paralyzes people. So you got to basically address it in a few ways.
Let's quickly jump into that, because I think it's important for people to realize that stress will cause all sorts of health issues, all sorts of issues. So that's the first thing, is realizing that, we all put stress on and pressure on ourselves, but if we don't have an outlet, it builds up. So that's kind of the first thing I think we need to acknowledge, is that stress will manifest itself in physical ways that will do damage to you. Like that, that's not like it will manifest itself in a way that will have adverse benefits to your health. So that's the first thing, that it is stress, or just acknowledging that stress is in fact a real thing.
Yeah. So our fear and anxiety and those things cause stress, right? So while a lot of times people, you don't want to hear my stuff, you downplay, what's happening, I wouldn't suggest doing that. I would suggest, if you're really feeling those things, to address them directly, either through, self-help techniques, or if those aren't working, then ultimately you got to talk to somebody. And if that's not working, then you maybe need to get some professional help, or to find some, maybe a stronger resource to assist you or guide you. And I think that's important to realize, right? We all want to put it on ourselves. We all, want to, we don't want to burden anybody else with problems, or especially our own. We all realize that everybody's got their own stuff that they're dealing with, right? But these are all like, and while those are all true, those are all true. I think if you asked your 10 closest friends or colleagues, if I was having a problem, would it be okay if I reached out to you and asked you something, or could talk to you or confide in you? Bet you the vast majority of them, if not all, would say, of course, yes, please do that. I would not want you to be, hurting. And if you feel like you need to talk to somebody, of course I'd be there for you.
See, the thing about that, and that's where I can look at myself and see that ways that I would need to improve, because just to your point, I am that person that says, if anybody has a problem, come call, like, let me know. Now that was from years of just isolation. And if you, when I used to be a drinker, that, you self-isolate and you would never let people know that you have issues. And thank God that that's not me, but
Sure.
Still, in terms of how I am built as a person, I will not go out of my way to tell anybody that I'm stressed, that I don't feel great, that I'm tired. None of it. And I never would. And that's something that I realize about myself, that, but with anyone else, I'm like, you let me know what's going on. Call me anytime. I got you. But would I ever say anything? Nope.
Yes.
And
that's
something that I need to, I recognize in myself.
Well,
I think
as somebody who is close to you, you do that more now. So that, like, if that is something that you hadn't done as much as you would like to in the past, which is, I understand that, you certainly have chipped away at doing better at that.
And it's usually only when people ask, they're like, "Hey,
that's true.
You all right?" And I'm like, "Well,
right. Well, I mean, I guess again, with me, that's hard for you to do. We talk a lot. Like, if something was, you wear your emotions on your sleeve, much like I do. So if something's wrong with us, it's pretty easy for people to tell.
Yeah.
And so I'd be an idiot if
That's a good point.
it's one thing to basically, I would be an idiot if I lied to people closest to me when they recognize something was happening. So if I get called on it, hey, lean in. Somebody's recognizing.
Well, it's not a lie if you don't say anything. If you just withhold information, you're not lying.
That's right. You're just not saying anything, right? But ultimately, if somebody does kind of check you on that, especially if they're close to you, don't lean in. That's the universe going, hey, dude, here's your opening. Here it is.
That's the call to action, right? That's the first call to action. That
is our first CTA.
Someone asks, that's your opportunity to share.
If someone asks you, hey, you got a layup, that way you don't have to kind of reach out to that person and be like, yo, I'm messed up or whatever. Hey, you got an opening. Take it. I can't stress enough how much it is. It's really just vocalizing. Take action. Don't live in limbo. Like, this is true for so many different aspects of our lives, but certainly when it comes to stress and anxiety. And again, don't go the other way too, where you just obsess on fixing it. Be careful. Again, the people are all over the damn place. Like, you have to absorb.
I do that for other people. I'm like, I can help on that. I got that.
Yeah, I got that. And you're like, no, you don't, and it's not you. That's right. So, just make sure that you're, again, yes, absorb it. Don't live in it. Right. Take action. But also make sure you are absorbing it. Make sure you are understanding the pain, anxiety, why the stress is there, what your part in it might have been, right? Like, those are super duper key things, because if you lie to yourself, the stress doesn't go away. It actually makes it worse.
No, it does.
By a bunch. So if you're one of these people who's trying to convince yourself, oh, I don't do anything wrong, and you know that even if you did something like 20% wrong and the other person did the 80% wrong, you still did something wrong, or there's still some responsibility you have in the situation. So it's important for you to look at yourself. You have to be one of the biggest ways to help deal with stress is to be self-aware.
Yes.
So you must be truly aware. You must be truly honest with yourself. You must truly be brutal with yourself and understand yourself, to a degree where you understand your faults, where you are okay with articulating them. And yes, these are things you should work on, of course, right? We all have things we're continually working on. So just things to acknowledge. It really is like you do have to be proactive. You have to do.
Yeah. Let's let's look at the overall idea of fear and anxiety, because let's kind of discuss that, because for folks that are listening, you know every day they have things that they're worried about, family and money and just all of it in the world that we live in. And just you know let's talk about some strategies, because you have to acknowledge the circumstance in which you're in, but you can't let it overwhelm you. So let's kind of dive into that. That just kind of, what let's think about, let's discuss what people are dealing with today.
Sure.
You
Well, I
know,
mean, there's a lot. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot out there. That's actually a good place. Let's start like the large, right? Like
yeah,
again, there's a lot of things that are meant to stress us, that are designed to cause us to be confused, frustrated, and it's meant to be that way. In fact, there's business models out there.
mm,
There's
yeah.
people who profit off of dividing to
There are
cause
lots of people
confusion,
that profit off that.
trying to act like there's no such thing as gray area. These are things that are done to you purposely because people want to make money
Fear
and they want
mongering,
and they want engagement.
So you keep tuning in
That's right.
to fear, whether it
Yes,
is
and another great one that's done to us is, the thing that's actually your enemy isn't your enemy. It's this other person that's just like you.
yeah.
And some fucking idiot people believe this shit. Like, I don't
Mhm.
understand. Like, again, we are being manipulated on constantly. And I don't even mean that in the most deceiving, horrific way, right? Marketing is manipulation.
Mhm.
Selling is manipulation, right? I should perhaps sway your opinion on a product, right? If I'm doing my job correctly,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So that's a layer that is acceptable, I think, right? Competitive. Hey, you're proud of your company. You want to find differentiators. Hey, we got to compete in the space, etc. There's a level of that that's completely fine, right?
There's a level of that, and that's what we do. Like, we have our own personal beliefs. Like for me, I sell weed for a living and gardening products for a living, because my agenda is I believe that this plant has helped me be the best me that I could possibly be. And me here is like a million where I was with alcohol and at any other point in my life. So that is, so we do that
Right.
because,
So that's not lying. That's you
right,
coming from the heart and then just figuring
right,
out ways to,
right.
position it and
Right.
explain it. And
It's authentic. And well,
yeah,
because it is something that I wholeheartedly believe in. So
right,
it's easy, and I wouldn't be able to, hawk, whatever, some idea that was
right.
diametrically adverse to what I feel. So
Sure. Yeah. And
yeah,
that's
so we
lovely,
do
right?
it. We all
That's what most of us should aim for, right? Hey,
right,
can your soul and your integrity line up with everything that you do? Woo! Like that's a really good combination. You can fly, right?
right.
You and I both know that that's, you got to put a lot of work in to get to there for most folks to even remotely have a chance to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The extreme, of course, is hi, our whole business model is off of hurting you and dividing you and conquering
Right.
you and
Right.
confusing you and fucking you up, right? Most stuff is in between somewhere, right? um, the thing that kills me the most, though, is the people who are doing this stuff purposely are good at positioning themselves often as, helpful,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they're not.
So
And
self
I
self-help.
would just suggest to everybody, anybody who you feel like is like that, right? Who's sort of a divisive figure that you find yourself attracted to. Again,
Mhm.
no shade at all. All good. Whoever's getting their hustle on, however they like to. But just remember that, like,
You're hurting people.
yeah, you look at yourself in the mirror. Look what you're doing.
You're hurting
And
people for your own benefit. Well, but okay, then let's pull back, because one of the things of not anxiety, but one of the things that, and it doesn't get me fearful, it gets me angry and just confused, is that just right now, where like the things in the world that don't make sense, like you were saying, and people who benefit off of negativity. It's just shocking to me, like how many people these days just have their eyes closed, and things that like just things that we accept, like the Overton window has shifted where we literally have people talking now and saying that comparing Donald Trump to Jesus Christ, which the blasphemy, and it made me laugh because earlier you said we've all done something wrong, and I was thought about, I'm like, nope. I just heard Donald Trump said I don't have anything I've ever had to apologize for. I've never done anything wrong. So it with me, it just like I'm just so confused right now of just some of the craziness in what's acceptable. Of literally, something came up the other day. They're having legislation that's going to be it's going to get rid of all of the civil rights proponents of Project 25, just things like that. There will be no more civil rights, but they're going to push through legislation that's going to make it illegal to make white people feel comfortable when it comes to race. And it's just, there's just so many crazy things, and people who have this crazy ideas on women's health, and it's just that's I don't have fear and anxiety. I just have confusion because there's so many things that just don't make sense right now. And there are people that are just like co-signing it. And it's like, what, like I'm on Earth 1. Like, what the fuck is going on right now? That's
well,
my
I'm on 616, but that's because I'm a Marvel guy. But anyways, I'm just playing. Sorry, I had to do
616, right? I never remember what our
that's
Earth
what we
is.
are. Yes, in Marvel. But anyways, that's a whole other thing. You're not wrong. Like I just don't really like. I think it's time that we do accept that there are a lot of people who don't believe we're all equal. There's tons of people who don't feel like men and women should be on an equal playing field, or they do feel like women should be subservient and men should be dominant. They feel like that's the way of the world.
Legislation of
right?
Literally, they want to have a registry of women who have had abortion services in some states. A record. You have to sign up, and we got to know who you are.
Nazi shit. But anyways, like again, like we're like the reason that this stuff is sticking out is because we're in a situation where the vast majority of the public, at least in my estimation, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but the data would support that most people do sort of to a degree think like we're talking about right now. Public, general public in America. Beliefs in terms of legislation that's proposed and things like that would reflect this, right? You see a lot of 60, 70%, 75% about a lot of the things that we're talking about. Like, yep, let's fix this. Let's get going here. You've even got a large swath of the Democratic Party who very much, progressives who very much admit that, the structure is fallible. It was built on, racism and white supremacy and, male dominance, which it was. I don't know how else to that is what we were built on. How do you deny that? You cannot. So the only thing you can do, if you're not willing to deny it and be like, yeah, that's gross, we got to fix that, you basically have to double down on it and own it, right? And you can see what kind of people do that. They're right there for you. I would implore you to say to yourself, would I like to hang out with that person?
Right.
Fuck that. Like, if you
I have daughters, I want to punch them all in the fucking face. That's what I want.
You should want to. They're traitors and fucking disgraceful.
And if I were in the same room with those people, I would light their ass on fire with what I would say to them. Oh, give me the opportunity. Maybe we should bring it back to.
If we play our cards right, sir, we'll get that opportunity. Yeah. And we'll continue to get those opportunities. Not only just us, people. And I do think there's a lot. I mean, I don't know. I'll say this out loud. A lot of people, I'll just say, well, give us about 10 years when most of the boomers are gone, right? There's some truth to that. Yeah, there just is. A bunch of them that have no business having a stronghold on anything in life have a bunch of power and stroke because of the way we're constructed.
Oh, things are
senile and dead. Like, we're voting for two decrepit, old, fucking washed up has-beens for fucking president. Okay, so again. No one's gonna mistake me for again, if you know me, I'm certainly not a right-wing supporter, but I do think that if you're looking at the left or you're looking at the Democratic Party, you ain't seeing a lot of great stuff either. Truthfully, it's a lot of money trying to manipulate this and the overwhelming sort of push from everybody else to basically change all of this stuff. And that's why the stuff that comes out now is so just overwhelmingly like ridiculous, like insulting to all of us, right? You know, like this whole charade that's a fucking election this year is bullshit. Like this is all trash. This is all manipulated by money. We didn't even have real like primaries.
No,
that ain't just Republicans' fault.
Well, actually, because we had one bully who, like, yeah, let's.
So just that you got one guy running to stay out of jail, and then you got another guy who doesn't even know where he is half the time. That's what we're doing. So again, leadership, right, is a thing. You know, like these are responsible. Like if you're looking to politicians to be leaders, you are stupid. They are puppets, bro. They are people who are told
now.
what to do and do it. Again, I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. Literally, that's what it is.
They don't even want to. They don't even want to.
So, like, don't act like you're. If you're acting like you're a leader, then you're an actual leader, right? Like, show me where show me where like strong leaders are. Right? There's only a handful of them, and even the ones that do look strong are so in bed with one side or the other. Like, you're gonna get rubbed off, or you're gonna be like, well, like they're good and I like them, and maybe I'll even vote for them. But like, where is your care? Like, but again. That's being done to us on purpose, though.
Let's
that's the problem is, again, and it breeds a lot of fear and stress to bring it back. So anxiety, right? It's because we feel helpless. I'll tell you what, we are helpless to it. We are. Like what's going on right now is like, yeah, go vote because you never know, I guess.
Well, my thing is like this: we need to vote because I don't. Here's the one thing that I to see the both sizing it. Like to see Biden's old, fine. I get that. Biden's not a rapist. Biden's not a fucking criminal. Biden's not a narcissistic sociopath. So the only thing that we'll get back on the subject. But when I see them both sizing things and they're comparing the two, one wants to fucking burn it all down. And literally, if anyone doesn't believe me, go do a Google search on Project 25 and just read all of the shit that's going on. We want to go backwards. So that's the only thing. I can't have it compared that Joe Biden's him being old is the same thing as him wanting to fucking burn it down. Because I'm going to tell you, if Donald Trump becomes president, we will never have another election again. And one of the grossest things in Article 25, there wants like literally. Yeah, I won't even say it because literally, go look up Project 25 for yourself and you'll see. So, but let's get back on topic because the whole thing.
Well, no, I mean, we talked macro. That is a big thing, right? That nobody can do anything about. That causes everyone a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Right. It also affects all of our businesses. It affects how we can move forward potentially. Right. I mean, ultimately, free market will still exist, especially with the two people running for president. So we should be fine that way. It's just more, again, like, I don't think anybody with half a brain could not see that, like, over time, especially in my lifetime, say the last 40, 50 years, that it's at least positioned that the Dems are the good guys and the Republicans are the bad guys. Sure, you got like 25%, 30% of the nation that agrees even with the bad or the good. Like a lot of people like heels, you know what I mean? So I can definitely see that, like, the sort of Republican mantra of like, grab yourself by your bootstraps and, and hey, it's about us in America and, blah, blah, blah. I can see how that appeals to a lot of people, of course. Right. I also can see how constantly acting like you're victims.
I was literally just
off, and that's what Democrats do.
They
They constantly get beat up, and the Republicans are the ones that constantly do the beating up, right?
But
we're sorry, Daddy beats us up too much, and then we elect Mommy, and then Mommy treats us too nicely, and then we elect Daddy. That's how it works.
But here's the thing: the Republican message used to be bootstraps. It used to be that.
Well, now it's
that's not their message anymore.
I know.
Because literally, you can't say that you want bootstraps if literally the whole party cries about everything. Taylor Swift, M&M's. There is no bootstrap. There's no strength. There's nothing strength based in that. It's just literally weakness.
And June makes a good point. you can't stay home as a result. Even though we could sit here and pick
No.
this apart,
Yes,
I can give
June,
you
you're
100
right.
reasons to stay home, but I can also give you 100 reasons to go vote.
Yeah, because we won't have a country and
And I'll
literally,
tell
yeah.
you what it comes down to me is it should come down to you as personal. My father, was a veteran, Vietnam War, 4 tours, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. He was not ignorant to all of this we're talking about. He was very, very savvy about it all. And he still died going, no, we can do this. We actually have enough things in place. We have a structure. There's even people who believe this. If we do it right, we can get there. And I'll tell you, as cynical as I can be and as realistic and fact-based as I can be, my heart is with my father, if I'm being brutally honest with you. I do think we can pull ourselves out of this shit.
Oh,
I do think that there's a
100%.
structure in place by which if we basically just pull the right levers and stop fucking being ridiculous, we can actually do some things. And the inefficiency of government is what kills me. And that has to do with everybody, not left, right, up or down.
Oh, yeah.
It has to do with money making things go slow because they want to manipulate the markets. They want to make sure that they have the data they want to have all the resources before everybody else has access to it. Right. And so again, there's plenty of evidence to support that things that we do to help the general public actually make everybody wealthier.
Yeah.
And it's only this strong sliver that has a lot of power and money and stroke that continues to prevent these things from happening. And you now get lots of younger Republicans, if I'm being fair, that very much agree with, more equal rights based sort of things, right? You have a large swath now of the Republican Party that rejects the Trumpers and that sort of a thing too. It's starting to grow.
I have a question, but where are they? But this is the thing. Where are they?
You're not going to see them this year because then they get their butts kicked forever.
Bullying. They're like bully. It's just insane. All right, here's the one thing, and we can get back onto like strategies because I have strategies to deal with all of this craziness.
And that's a good segue.
Yes. But one last thing about the whole thing, and yes, June is right. We cannot stay home. But what people literally need to just like ask themselves what each candidate is for. What they're running on. Is it personal grievance or is it I am your retribution? Because it's very simple. And I know it's one of the things, because I was having a conversation with another black person. I was going to say man of color, but another black man. And he was like talking about just the difference of Biden and Trump. And, I heard some crazy thing. Oh, Trump supports HBCUs. I'm like, you have to be fucking crazy. And literally, for anyone who would vote, and okay, so I'll say to any black person who thinks of voting for Donald Trump or any brown person, look at Article 25 and Project 25 and see what he wants to do with your safety. I'll end it on that.
You can also look up the story of the Central Park 5 if you'd like.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
and what did Donald Trump call? He took out ads in 3 newspapers calling for these 5 black men to die, the death penalty. Like, we know the first time Donald Trump was even in the newspaper was a story of him and his father, Fred Trump, for not renting to black people and putting a little C on their application so they wouldn't get housing. But I have strategies that deal with all of this. And this is when I know you and I have talked about religion and we have kind of different beliefs on that. But this is where it's just amazing because I don't stress, I get confused with just the craziness and things that don't make sense. But none of it stresses me out in terms of what's going to happen, because that is where my faith does play a huge role, because I don't worry. Like, things happen the way that they're supposed to. And there are lots of things that, I can just leave up. I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be. Like, I know that I can do what I can do to prepare and for whatever. And it works with literally everything in life. If there's concerns about whatever, fear, anxiety, I know that things are going to work out, because one of actually the benefits is that I've been through so many, and we all have been. I've been through so many dark and trying times that whatever I'm looking at is child's play compared to where I've been. So I have that faith. So that's one thing that is beneficial, that I don't worry about the country. I don't worry about like things that, like, I know it's going to work out.
Well,
I do. I
don't know about that, but I can't worry about things that I don't control. And while we have some different, philosophies when it comes to spirituality and religion. One of the things I think that's unique about me, and this is, I've had this with a lot more sort of like, there's a lot in common that I have with a sort of open-minded Christian like yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of focusing on our differences with folks like you and others that I run into, I tend to focus on our similarities, because it's a lot easier for us to talk. If we get into the weeds, then we'll have arguments. But if we basically stay in the macro, we pretty much
Mm-hmm.
believe the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I'd rather, align with people. Like, not everybody's required to think like me. I'm not the end all be all who knows everything or anything like that. And neither are you. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and neither is anybody. And so I do think whatever your sense of spirituality is, or your religion, or whatever your faith kind of is something that you should lean on in those times when you're stressed,
Mm-hmm.
right? That, and like talking to people that you're close with or that you feel you can confide in. These are super important things, right? Whether you call it prayer or meditation, do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, whether you pray to Jesus or the Christian God, or you basically meditate towards the one source. It's
Yeah.
Yes, those are good things to do. Please do them. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you should do, right? If you feel you need to talk to your pastor as opposed to somebody else, go ahead. If they're trustworthy and they're going to guide you correctly, yes,
Mm-hmm.
lean on them. And when you're having trouble, like, that's what a lot of people are there for. And if it's hard, then yes, maybe it's a therapist time or a psychologist time or something like that. But either way, the key is taking action and really being able to tap into your own beliefs, your own heart, your own people that you trust,
Right.
to basically navigate these waters, because none of us know what the hell's going on most of the time.
I think there's something to what you said, and this is kind of what people need to understand, because when I say religion or faith, what I mean by that is just an understanding that because here's the thing, it's not about yeah. If it's about religion, it's like, this is the number one religion, all the rest are crap and whatever. And that's
Right.
not, it should just literally be about faith. And for me, like, and where it's helpful is that, where you were saying, like, just to sit down and whatever, it doesn't have to be God, it doesn't have to be whatever. As long as you have some kind of, and this is the thing that is important about religion for me, because, and it's to your point that we don't control anything. When you have a higher power, whatever it is, you have the comfort to say, I don't control everything. So for me to sit here and worry and try to do this, that, and the other, that's not going to be helpful. It's not going to benefit you. It's going to, like, stress you out. It's going to make you. And that's the thing where, so when people, if people have an understanding in spirituality, that's amazing. Like, when people say they don't have religion, that's fine. I don't care. Like, you don't have to have religion, whatever. The only thing that I feel is just a twinge of sadness, because it's like, well, that kind of sucks, because then that means everything's on you. Like, and if you believe that there's nothing, like, I'm the soul, like, there's nothing higher than me, it's just me, then that means all of the pressure of life, you have that on you. And that's a lot of pressure. That's why I find it beneficial, because when you do have a higher power, and mine is God, then you're able to say, okay, I can only control so much, and here we go,
Well,
but
I mean, again, I can disagree with a lot of things you just said, but I also agree with the larger premise, which is essentially like having some sort of belief and faith of something that's greater than yourself is important for you to tap into. Remembering that you're everything and nothing all at once, that you're super special, and that you don't mean shit all at once, is a super important thing for people to understand. And the duality, right, of our existence is important to sort of like recognize that is there. Whether you access God in your case to tap into that, to remind you as a reminder, or if you're like me, and you don't believe that there's things higher than you, you just think that we're all part of the same collective. And we all contribute to the brain trust, or to the energy that flows throughout all of us. So it's the same sort of thing in that regard. Whether you look at it as somebody higher than you as a way to keep yourself in check, or if you just recognize that we're all the same, and we're all basically we all have contributions, we all have things to it. And again, for me, the reason I don't believe in religion is because it divides people, whether that was man-made or whatever, which it was. Bottom line, that's that. But if you're talking about the macro and like, hey, there's a God, and I tap into that and I use some Christian themes and culture to help me guide me. I mean, that's not my job to tell you that's wrong or right. My job is simply to see if we can align and that we can grow together, or not, and I think that going through life, you try to, and this is a thing that can help you with stress and pain and anxiety, which is when I go into a new environment or I see somebody new, I don't assume that things are bad or tough or it's going to be hard. I assume the opposite. I assume that we're going to have a great time. We're going to get along. We'll see some common ground, have a good time, whether that's I'm just meeting you for the first time or a great friend of mine who we finally get to do something for a little bit or with or whatever, or we're on a project on a Zoom call or something. Like I want to come into that with that positive energy, optimism, hey, let's get it done. Hey, this will be fun. Even for the most mundane things, people who have worked with me directly know that I simultaneously am just obsessed but silly about making like small things victories, right? Hey, we got the first email out. Woo! Let's fucking go. That's. I mean, I do that. And anybody who's worked close with me will know that I'm like that. Will tell you I'm like that. You know that. And so I think it matters. When the big things come, then it's great too, right? It's almost the same level. So you're like, Jesus, you're getting as excited about this as we hit a new threshold of revenue growth or something. Like, yeah, sometimes. I mean, sometimes that email was tougher. That first step can be real tough. That first like making a thing, like that's hard. That can be hard. Like if you're doing your job right, then the big stuff comes. And so those are great. But again, I really just mean it as a technique. We were talking about technique, right? Again, mindset. I know that we're all nervous sometimes when we go into new places or we have something that we really care about and we have to do it, or we're uncomfortable in our environment or whatever. So, and that happens to all of us. So instead of absorbing that stress, right, maybe talk to yourself and say, hey, wait a sec.
Yeah.
I have no reason to be stressed out yet. So let me be optimistic about what should happen. And then, of course, stuff happens and you got to deal with that. But ultimately, most of the times that people go into these sorts of environments, they come out going what? They say, "Oh wow, it was way easier than I thought. I had such a good time."
Well, it's funny, and that's one of the things that I used to have, where it's like you're going into a situation and you're trying to like plan what it's gonna be. Like for years, I don't even do that. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. Like I don't think about who's gonna be there. I don't think about conversations I'm gonna have. I don't think, because I know this. And even when you if you like don't necessarily want to go or whatever, you're busy or you're tired, I always know like, oh, I'm gonna be glad at the end of it that I did it. And that's one thing that it helps me in terms of if there's something, I always know at the end of it, I'm gonna be glad that I did that. And when I go into something, I have that in my head, so it makes and it stops that fear or anxiety of not knowing what to expect, because who gives a shit? You're just going to, jump in.
Yeah. Again, there's another, like, this is something that a lot of people can tap into. Like, hey, I don't give a fuck. There's a lot of positive to that.
Yeah.
A lot of positive to it, right? Yeah. Again, I know people want to say that's like, oh, hey, that's a giving up, or that's like, hey, I don't care. Sometimes it's okay not to care. Sometimes, in fact, it behooves you not to, because you don't have any reason to do so. Right? Look at all these fools you see online co-opting messaging that's really just designed to distract them, like it's something that's helpful, right? Ooh, look, this person put out this information that really, really hurts this group of people. I'm going to double down on that and share it. Maybe you should not give a fuck about that, right? Maybe you should not. Maybe you should form your own opinions before you start reposting or adding to things, right? Or adding to the general sort of like the negative parts of social media culture, right? Like, again, I mean, we're getting to the point where now so many good people I know are throwing their hands up of things that literally have been able to bring them lots of attention and they've been able to, work with people, but they're so sick of the toxicity, right? Again, another reason why we wanted to do this show was to be like, hey, like, we can throw some things out there, but I'm not naive. stuff like this doesn't get, massively picked up, or, this isn't clickbait for anybody, right? Either
What do you
on
mean?
my
What? We're not getting the. We're not
or
getting the.
anything like that. Like, I'm not an idiot here. Like, when I'm counseling other people, I'm working with, other companies and stuff. We're talking about ways to basically generate awareness and interest, right?
What do you
So,
mean? We're not getting the 50 million that Steven Crowder and all these people who push misogynistic bullshit push. Why aren't we getting the 50 million for that? We're trying to
well,
actually
if
help
I'm going to
people.
be, I'll even be fair to Steven Crowder. We have not put in the work or the time that he has, and we have not nurtured an audience, and we have not leaned into topics and things that will really, really just attract to one niche. This is smart, like, technique for him. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
Like,
you have
that's appropriate strategy.
to
It's
build
really
that,
smart.
but you have to
If
live
you can
that
look at
life.
yourself in the mirror, you know what I mean. But like
That's what I had. Yeah,
you
but
know,
you have to live that life. You have to endorse that belief. Well, and you
you
see
got
belief
20 people around you that you care about. You give a fuck about anybody else. That's how you do it.
true.
That's
That's
what they
true.
do.
Well,
I don't care about burning the world. Like, a lot of people believe that the world is theirs to burn,
and that's the thing.
and they're
That's
all
where
Christians. So I don't know
that's
what to
where the
tell you there, but that's
confusion
the truth.
comes in. That's where the confusion comes in, because it's like that doesn't make sense. Do you like when there are issues where people are on the wrong side of history? It's like
Yes.
you have to look at yourself, and if you've got a wife or daughters or something, like I don't get it, dude. I don't get it.
No, you're really just telling them that, like, yeah, like, I believe you're subservient to me. I believe you shouldn't have the rights that I do because I'm better than you and I'm more important than you are. Like that, isn't that what that parent's doing? That makes sense, right? You're nurturing your kid to believe like you do. I'm
Well,
not
I
saying
guess
it's right, but I'm just
I
saying that's how it
well,
happens, right? I mean, I don't have kids, so, like, I don't know, but I would
Well,
guess that.
I guess that's the overall thing, that if you're making those decisions, then you're like, okay, because those decisions are being made by men. So it's like this has not. But here's the thing, and I don't know why no one has like brought this up to them, but all these people who want to legislate women's bodies, they ever brought to those men and said, hey, we want to do X, Y, and Z to you, and we want you to do this, they lose their fucking minds.
Yeah, like forced vasectomies or something. Hey, when you get
Exactly.
45, you
What do you
have to get a
mean? Yeah, that's
vasectomy.
my freedom. Well, what do you
Like, hey,
mean?
fuck that, right?
But
So why
but
are
I
you
guess
telling women?
I guess that's the same thing. They think that they're more important, just like there's a segment of folks in
Right,
America that think that
that's right.
they're better than people of color or
Right, well, why
whatever.
do you think, like, they make birth control hard to access for
Yeah,
women?
yeah,
Right? You keep them subservient, keep them pumping out kids, right?
yeah.
And then, of course, on top of that, you make abortion illegal, so that way they have to have the kid.
Right.
And then, of course, that family is now burdened. We don't want to talk about how kids burden families, but they do. And then ultimately, you have to lean into, hey, I'm a good parent. I got to nurture this kid, right? And then you don't get to do any of the things that you really, really want to do because it's too hard. The economy is too much, and I got to take care of the kid.
Right.
What a fantastic strategy to continue to keep people at bay,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I
About
don't. That's what it is.
about
Like,
control.
stop acting like everybody. Stop acting like it's something different. I just
Right.
told you what it is. That is
Right.
what it is.
Right.
Uh,
It's control.
It's people who have taken Christianity, and I'll speak for you, and have warped it, and have warped what
Mhm.
their ideas of it are. And for decades now, and even well before we were even alive, there's been a concerted effort to basically incorporate those values into our government. And now, just now, are you really seeing the fruits of that labor, even though it's been going on for over 40 years?
Well,
So,
let's examine that, because that's one thing where, unfortunately, Christianity has been co-opted, because literally everything that is going on right now, if anyone ever read the Bible, like it's not like they are teaching the adverse of it. Like all of religion and faith it is supposed to be about love. That is what it is. It's about, you're
yeah,
supposed to love, and it's the whole thing. What did Jesus do? Love the immigrant. Jesus
yeah,
was an immigrant.
right.
He was a person of color, if people want to believe that or
Yeah.
not.
Well, he
So
also
literally
wasn't Christian.
everything
So,
they yes, but this is exactly. But they have co-opted this. So for someone like myself who does have faith, who does believe in God, it's disgusting to me that they're literally calling this man Jesus, and
yes.
it makes it's insane to me. It's insane.
Yeah.
But
And I
but
think
here
more people
we
like
are.
yourself, I think more people like yourself need to stick your neck out there and speak on behalf of Christians. You know what I mean? I'm not one, so I have no business talking about that sort of a thing. But for you, um, that's got to be a tremendous source of frustration.
Oh,
And and
here's
most
the thing.
people I know that are Christian feel like you do in that regard.
But I think a lot of people are, well, you look at people who have like, whatever. If people get mad, they get mad. I don't give a shit. Because if you look at the record, look at the record. I'm sorry. Republicans right now are on the wrong side of history. So these same conversations should be having. If people do agree with what's going on in
Yeah.
the control of women's bodies and want to have a national abortion ban and all this other stuff, if people want, like, if these people don't agree and think that this is wrong, then why don't they talk to their uncles and their aunts and the people in their families that sign off on this? Because it's not about Republicans and Democrats. It's literally about, like, fuck. I mean, you could go into it of wanting, like, Putin to take over the world. Like, there's, like, every single thing is the wrong side of history. A problem with DEI, a problem with changing history to say that slaves gain skills that served them later in life. There was no later in life for slaves, you dumb asshole. But somehow a DeSantis can spout it, and it's true. Like that. Those are the
It's only
things.
true
Like,
for a sliver. And again, Aaron, you're forgetting, and I get it, but like ultimately, there's these echo chambers that have now been created for everybody. Like, not just it used to just be like, you'd keep rich people or like the well-to-do people in echo chambers, but now all of us are in there because there's all this infrastructure. If you really like Steven Crowder, excuse me, you will like Fox,
Right.
you'll like Newsmax,
Right.
you'll like Trump, you'll like, and you'll just watch those media, you'll follow those people, you'll listen to those outlets, and then they basically keep you in the mix.
Right.
Because we have all sorts of great marketing techniques and remarketing, and here we're going to do content that speaks to you. We're going to pay and make it fucking shove in front of your face. And the more you click, the more it'll be shoved in front of your face. That's how it works. Like, I don't, like, again, the reason like we have this disconnect is because we've been purposely divided on levels that people don't even really understand right now. They don't. We weren't as divided before this happened because there wasn't technology able to do this to us. But
I know why we're in this situation. Like, literally what it is that Donald Trump was the embodiment of grievance. He literally made it. So he had a whole segment of society that he said, oh, well, I know that you can't say whatever you want at work. You can't drop slurs and do whatever. And that's not right. So I'm going to be your voice. And that is literally what he did, was he mobilized this grievance that made white people feel as though they were being taken advantage of. And one of the things that, like,
but they've been taught that was been happening. That group of people that flame has been stroked all the way since, like, Reagan was talking about welfare queens, and all this stuff, and like and it's been stroked off also by Democrats, right? Clinton talking about like super predators, and Biden with the crime bill. Again, do we want to? You know what I mean? Like, there's it's not just red or blue, left or right. It's not. Like, it's rich and poor more than it is anything, in my opinion. But we use race as a really strong divider because it is a good one to use.
And to that
it
point,
has a lot of legs, if you will,
it is
to keep people distracted. Because there's a lot of things worth talking about with regards to race, and it's not as if these fucking people who are like, I don't see color. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, again, stop. Like, this is like, again, it's about sort of manipulation, right? But there is a rich history of racism, a very, very strong one that we've never ever acknowledged or ever really did anything to address.
No, we haven't. No. We've been gaslit about it.
Paid them for them, right?
Yeah.
So again, if the government would just like do what it's supposed to do, like German government has said, we are sorry. Yeah. Nazis were bad. This is terrible. It was a horrible look. We're going to do these things to try to better society. We're going to contribute in these ways. And they're doing okay. Like, they're not, perfect, but like that, at least you're doing it, right? Australia with Aborigines, same thing. They acknowledge it, right?
Look at South Africa, and that's where it was interesting, where the apartheid system came down, and I've heard it discussed where they said, so 10 years later, as a country, they looked at it and was like, wow, that was really fucked up that we did that.
Yeah, we're terrible.
We've never done that here. And not only have we not done that, it's gaslighting. It's like, what are you talking about? There's no such thing.
We're perfect.
There's no racism. What are you talking about? It's like,
Equal Rights Act got signed in 1968 or whatever. We're good, right? Right?
Well,
we're equal under the eyes of the law, so we're fine, yeah.
That's part of the game plan for Project 25. They want to reverse. They want to reverse all of the legislation that was gained through the civil rights movement.
Well, now since liberal is like a super bad word, of course, that everybody's very afraid of. Now they can go, oh yes, you know how liberals did this? Let's gut it, right? Because liberals are bad, right? You know what the word liberal means?
That you're okay with things. That you're agreeable.
It literally just means that you're willing to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from your own. You're open to new ideas.
Oh, sounds dangerous. No, but
it is if you're taught that there's a formula for everything and that you don't. There's nothing new for you to learn.
Right. Well, here's the thing. There is something to your point that it is more. They have made it about race, but it is about class system. And here's the thing. So they have a whole.
It is about race. Like, to be fair, it's about race.
But the distraction. It's more about classism because they literally are pitting poor people against poor people. If I can get you, poor person, to hate all these other poor people,
you won't be distracted.
You realize that I'm totally screwing you over on, like, I'm working for your boss and working with your boss to keep your pay low and keep you in, and you're not going to look at that and be upset. You're going to look at the shiny red ball, and it's how literally like red states.
And folks, please listen to this. Please listen to what Aaron's saying, because this has been the way of America from a jump street.
So that's why
this is not like that's why you need to know that, because that's
why you can get a red state. That's why you can get a red state to vote against their own interests.
Of course,
because they're more. If you look at the states that but if you have them go, oh, but hate California because it's blue, or hate this state, you won't realize that your state is completely fucking you over because you're too busy going, but I can't stand the illegal immigrant. It's like, but you don't realize, like, they literally have you, like, they're picking your pocket.
Look what the wealthiest among us have made over the last 50 years, and then look at what inflation has done. Just look at those two things. You can get that information. It's right there for you. So again, you're not wrong. Like, again, you're like, we're all being manipulated to the benefit of certain people's pocketbooks more than anything. It's always been the way of the world, of our world. I'd like us to try to change that. I'm under no illusion that's going to happen in my lifetime. Maybe it will, but ultimately, if I can do my little part, and we can all do our little part, maybe we make a dent in stuff like this. And I guess that's the point of this conversation. And our CTAs to finish up are do something, say something, but also, don't give up. Don't give up hope. That's a great way to breed on stress and anxiety, is to give up. There's enough good people out there. There's enough good data to compel you to be like, hey, there's a lot of people who, want to see good things happen. And there are. In fact, the majority of people want to see that. It's just that we're all super duper afraid to say things. We're super duper afraid to open up. We're super duper afraid to be vulnerable. We're super afraid to be taken advantage of. And there's a whole lot of sources out there that want to continue to make you afraid of that.
Yes.
And so when you see those, I suggest you give them one of these right here.
Yeah. Here, can I give you a quote to that point?
Sure.
This is why this is from LBJ. He literally says, because he was watching the civil rights movement, he said, if you can convince the lowest white man that he is better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pockets. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. That literally is what is going on right now. And so
it's been going on for a long time. It's just Trump's the most brazen ever to do it. And he's speaking to people who like brazen.
Yeah. All right. What's my call to action? Because I have to. So this show wasn't meant to be political, but
it ended up being pretty political.
Oh, no, actually, you know what? That's the elephant in the room right now. That is
it was about the stress that this whole dynamic puts on all of us, regardless of what side of the aisle you come from, to be fair. I mean, obviously you can see Aaron and I have certain leanings, but like ultimately, I know a lot of Republicans that are frustrated with all of this too. I know a lot of people who don't know what they should be. right?
Right.
Not to mention, data will show you that the vast majority of the public that votes doesn't claim either party.
Mm.
They're independent.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that you should look into that too, everyone. But I'm not a big fan of political parties. So.
People should just look at the facts. Just look at the facts. That's
Speaking of
very
which, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you. Not every show is as political as this one will be, but hey, it was a proper topic today.
But hey, that's the fear and anxiety in this country. I mean, literally, but you can't not think about the state of the world that you're in. Like literally, I know that everything is so hyper. Like as a black man, when I go out into the world, I have to think about my safety in places that I go, because I can turn on the news all the time and see people being shot, killed, attacked for just breathing. So I think it is important that we address those facts, because those are the factors. But again, my call to action for me is that I have faith. I have a higher power that I can leave it up, because I know that things will work out, and things usually do. I think that we can all look at our lives, and we've been in situations where we worry about things. But if you look at your entire life, you'd probably say about 95% of the things worked out the way that they worked out best for you. That might not be the way that you had envisioned or wanted it, but in most cases, things do work out better than, they work out for you and they work out. That's the positivity I'm leaving with this week, is that things do work out. You always have to be positive, and don't let fear and anxiety cripple you, because you got this. That's mine. You got this.
And on that note, have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Y'all.
See ya. Love you.
Love you guys.